I think we're going to kick it off. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm Marissa Sapega. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Assembly. And we are here with McKay Ferrell. He's the SVP of our product team. And also Matt Schad, who is a veteran trial lawyer. And they are here to talk about embracing automation, AI, and modern communication for your firm. First, a few housekeeping items. If you'd like to ask questions, feel free. We will address them at the very end. Also, this meeting is being recorded. If you have to leave halfway through, if you want to share it, watch it again, you will get a copy of this webinar after the event, probably in a few days. Okay, let's kick it off. First, a little bit about our host. Matt Schad is a dedicated trial lawyer who has acted as lead counsel in over 50 jury trials and secured multiple 7- and 8-figure verdicts, specializing in serious injury and death cases across various legal domains, making him a sought-after expert for challenging cases in Indiana and Kentucky. He's also a expert Neos user. Thank you, Matt. And we're very excited to hear how you're using automation and AI with your workflows and what you're planning to do for 2025. McKay Ferrell is our SVP of Product. He has over 2 decades of experience in SaaS products and has been at Assembly Software for 4 years. And he's going to share some very exciting NeosAI new features that are coming out in just a few weeks. So get super pumped for that. I'm just going to kick it off with a question for Matt. So Matt, you're always planning for the future. Tell me what you're planning for 2025, what challenges you see ahead of you and how you are planning for them.
So, well, thank you. Thanks for asking me to do this. Everybody's bio makes them look, way more interesting than they actually are. So I appreciate it.
You're very interesting. Come on, Matt.
So the challenge is the same challenge that it is every year. And that is, how do you stay ahead of your competition and your adversaries? And they're really 2 different things. One is, how do you rise above the herd, like in your field using technology? And the second is, how do you make your adversaries think there's 10 of you, not 1 of you? And, to me, whether it's AI or it's Neos, that's the challenge. Like, I was in the Army, they called it a force multiplier. How do you take what you have and make it more lethal, make it seem like there's more of you than there are? And so for next year, in 2025, I think the challenge for me and everybody else is, how do I get comfortable enough with AI to use it in that way rather than to just play with it? Because I think where we are now with most lawyers is people have gotten used to the idea. They've gotten over some of their initial, a lot of us have gotten over our initial, fears about it. And now we're trying to use it. So the question is, the challenge is make it work for you and your staff in a way that makes you twice as powerful as you were before. And you have to be really creative to do that. It's a creative challenge, I think, not a technical challenge.
I mean, I think you brought up a really good point about this is something that's not going to replace your staff. This is something that's going to enable them to do 2, 3, 5 times as much work, but it's never going to replace them. So I love that you are using it as a, what did you call it? A
force multiplier.
A force multiplier, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So some of the things also that I think are really interesting, Matt, we talked before, just as it relates to how some of the tactical things that you're doing. And specifically, you mentioned communications before in some of the conversations that we've had. What are some of the ways that you're doing that today? Obviously, through the lens of Neos, and on the product side, we've recognized that that's a big focus of everything that our clients do. So how are you enabling that, and what are some of your tips and tricks there?
Well, maybe the best way to do that is kind of give you guys a peek into my Neos journey, because I think for most people, how they use it is an evolution. It's not something that you jump right into right away. So where we started, we got into Neos like right during COVID. Basically, the same week COVID hit, I talked to a infectious disease expert that week, and he said, you better be ready to shut down and have everybody remote. And if you have any great big office projects, you better start them now, because you're not going to miss the chance. So we've been thinking about making a switch, and Neos was kind of in its infancy. So right away, we had like 4 months of being apart to kind of use it and communicate. And I think it started off with the basics. You know, you've got your client data in, and it makes it so easy to send an email. You know, just at the most basic level, having all the client contact data in there, you know, we take that for granted now, but it hasn't always been that way with case management. So you kind of start off there, and then you do things like you can just click on the phone number and call. That was sort of a way to start. And then it evolved to sending email and documents right from the documents menu as a way to communicate rather than wasting time with attachments. When the text features rolled out, I loved the text features, because I don't really like to talk to people on the phone all day. And the text feature, if I recall, you could send a text, but they didn't really send one back in a way that popped up, which was perfect, because I don't want to hear back from people all day. I want to tell them something important that they need to know and say, call my staff. So it's funny. I think a lot of people thought maybe that feature was that there was that you wanted two-way communication, but I didn't really want two-way communication. I wanted one-way communication. And we use the text feature constantly. It's so easy. And, you know, clients it's time consuming to play phone tag with people. So when you can send them a text, it's really, you know, really helpful. Then we sort of took the step forward with that. And, you know, you guys have integrations with a lot of third-party vendors who kind of add functionality and stuff. So we got the enhanced texting feature, and we partnered with one of your partner vendors. So now we have I think it's called case status. I think that's what it's called. But basically, you know, with Neos and this platform, we're able to get client feedback at all these phases, to let them know automatically when the status of their case changes. So our client communication is probably better than it's ever been. And what you really see is that the more you communicate with clients, some clients, not all clients, but the more you do it, the happier they are. So, because they rate us after each, this platform has like a rating thing where they give you and we have little competitions in the office to see like who has the highest customer satisfaction rating. It's never me, but we still call people out for it. So that has made the process of getting in touch with people, having them get us stuff, not email dependent. And email is a distraction for everybody all day long. And if you do everything, but it is not the most efficient way to communicate with people. And by eliminating that and having things that are posted automatically to Neos, you know, as great as the save to Outlook feature is, it takes about 15 or 20 seconds to do each one of those. So when you take that out of the equation with texting, it's you know, you can save 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, and clients seem happy. So it's made it way easier, and it makes my clients think that I'm way more involved in things than I actually might be, which is the whole force multiplier, you know, can you be in 10 places at one time kind of thing.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And I love that you brought up kind of the integrations that we have, and the way that Neos was built was really off of an API strategy, so we can extend where we need to with third-party vendors when you have additional needs. But we also have built a bunch of workflows like a PDF editor within Neos. So instead of having to go out to Acrobat, we have that natively built in. So we do that, and we choose to do that for a couple of different reasons. But one of the big things that we're talking today is automations, but a lot of people associate automations with different things. For us, that's a level of automation by bringing that PDF directly into the application. How have you found that beneficial, and how do you work with that?
Well, it's kind of two questions. One, automation in general, how do you think of it? Number two, like the PDF in particular. And so, putting those two things together, like, here's how I think. Everything that you have to get done, or that somebody on your staff has to get done, has a certain number of steps. And it makes me feel like kind of a geeky productivity expert to think in this way. And I think a lot of my staff members think I'm crazy because I'll like time how long it takes to do something. Because that time, as lawyers, they tell us early on, lawyers only have one thing of value to sell. It's their time. Like, we don't make widgets, we don't build anything. It's just time. So automation is, can you get from A to B faster, and how do you do the steps? So take the PDF, and I always want to get the number of steps lower, make it easier to get from A to B. So, and cheaper too, because I'm cheap. Nobody likes to pay, for technology. So, case in point, the PDF editor. So we have an office that's full of, or was full of, Adobe full licenses. Okay. I think everybody's used to the Adobe paradigm. I think in a law office, there's a lot of people who need the full version of Adobe. You have to bait stamp things and redact things and move things around. And one day I had this notice from Adobe, hey, your bill's coming up, and your renewal fee is $6,000 for all your Adobe licenses. And, I'm not in a huge office. There's like 12 of us. And I went around, first of all, I was flabbergasted at that bill. And everybody in the office had gotten like separate, they had all gone through the separate steps themselves to get that program. So they all add up, and there's no way to keep track of them. And so first thing we had was, we have to get rid of these licenses. We don't all need it. How do we do that in a more efficient way? And that's when I called you guys to talk about your document thing and the document module. And so now, instead of all the time and effort that it took to manage those licenses, which just renew all the time and they were too expensive, everybody had different passwords. Now, through your document module, it's just one-stop shopping. I know exactly how much it's going to be. There's no surprises. And the functionality of it, it does every core essential feature that I needed the full version of Adobe to do. You can look at things, you can rearrange pages, you can bait stamp different things, you can redact things. You can do it all from, the built-in view and context windows within Neos. So it's replaced all of those. Now everybody has access, and it's saved me thousands and thousands of dollars per year. And there was a hidden, sort of a hidden benefit that I didn't realize when we got that, which is, and I know we're going to talk about AI later, to have AI work with your PDF documents, the documents have to be OCR, which means the underlying text has to be kind of brought forth from it. And in your module, when you upload documents into Neos, that happens in the background. I don't know how it happens. It's like magic. It doesn't happen right away, but after a certain amount of time, that document is going to be OCR. So now, because next year will be a huge AI year for us and for everybody, we no longer have to download stuff, OCR it as a separate step, and then put it into the AI systems that we're using. So it's a small thing, but like that one step was such a pain in the neck. I had to like train people how to OCR, and so, it's made the barriers between us and using AI in those documents that much smaller. And the training's easier. You guys have videos for training. So if somebody asks a question, I don't have to tell them to Google Adobe Acrobat Pro and all the thousands of versions that have been out there on YouTube. I just send them straight to the training page and say, I want you to watch this video. And then they know what they need to know, which makes
I love it. Absolutely. Yeah. And, just a quick call out. We also have something called Neos University, which is a way to get certified in a bunch of different areas within Neos. You can go back and continue to do those courses, or if you have a new hire, you want to run them through that. It's a great way to get everybody up to speed. But yeah, that's fantastic. So we also talked before, and you had some other tips and tricks or just general feedback around document generation, kind of the documents tab and how that's enabled your firm to become even more productive. It's even the small things like having the case ID when the list of documents. You want to speak to that?
Sure. Well, I think the place I start with documents is, most people have had some version of a case management system for, 10 or 15 years in some form or the other. And in every case management system, it has features that people might not use. They don't appeal to everybody. And I think Neos is the same way. You couldn't use everything that's in it. But I think if you ask people what is the one feature that every single person who uses it uses, it is the way it organizes documents. And in our business, it's all documents all the time. You can't work in a case without being in documents. So, at its most basic level, the codes, the tags, all that stuff, the ability to search it, makes it so much faster to find things than it used to be. The ability to save it from emails, because we get almost all of our documents via email. They don't come in the mail anymore and get scanned in. Everything comes by email. So the transition from email to getting them in Neos, it keeps getting easier and easier all the time. And I think it's probably going to continue to get easier. So as we were playing around with this lately, I saw you guys had made some enhancements that you may have thought were small, but have some big, like, unintended consequences good ones that we've been trying to use. So, on the right side, left side, excuse me, of the Neos main screen, right beneath the view where you can see all your cases, you can click documents and you can see every document that's in the system. And organize it any way you want by case or when they're come in. It used to be in that view, you couldn't see what case they were associated with, which made that view kind of like, you'd kind of have to guess what case it was. It was hard to use, but now you can see the case on there. And what that's done for me is it's like an inbox. I can see everything that's going on in a day in the firm by looking at what documents have been entered that day and what case they're in. So, because in the digital world, if you're if you get people you have to supervise or you're responsible for other people, it's not like I was describing how it used to be to a young guy in our office. He's in his 20s. And I said, Joseph, it used to be I had a stack, an inbox and an outbox. It was all paper. And there would be a stack, you'd look at it, you'd write a sticky note on it, and you'd put it in the outbox for somebody to do something with. And as inefficient as that was, what it let me do is I laid eyes on every single thing that came through the office, which there's something to be said for that. You know what's going on in your cases in your office. It doesn't work that way anymore with email. Different people on your team get different things. So this list view in the main documents menu, I'll call it, lets me look at a glance and I can see what so-and-so is doing in this case, or what so-and-so is doing in this case, or this pleading came through. So as a supervisor, I guess, and as the person who ultimately, I'm responsible for everything that happens under our roof, I find that a very comforting feature. And I like to know what's going on. The other cool thing that we've used that for is the tagging function on documents. We create tags by things that are interesting that we might use later. Like if it's an interesting brief in a bad faith case, I'll tag it with bad faith. If it's a nursing home, treatise or medical literature, I'll tag it with nursing home and medical literature. So now we have kind of, we used to call them brief banks in the old days. You'd keep all the good stuff that other people sent you and that you produced. So you could go back and use it again, and you'd file it away and stuff. This makes that super easy. So when somebody comes to me and I've got to delegate a research project or something, I just run a search for that bad faith tag, and I can say, here's the last 5 appellate briefs I did. Here's my rules of the road memo. Here's the voir dire. Like I've got hundreds of tags because I've got, 20 years worth of documents that we pulled over, and it's not a needle in a haystack anymore. It's a living, breathing, evolving resource that's, you can go back and find important things that you did a long time ago.
That's amazing. And I'm also really glad you brought up OCR when we start talking about AI, because we're going to do a demo and we're going to talk about how all this kind of ties back together. But a lot of what we've done is around documents with AI. And we've released some ways to generate additional documents, not just our standard document templates, but actually generate it with AI. And that's been a few months that we've had that out in the wild. We've done a couple other things with extractions and summaries that continue to expand, and I'm excited to show that some of the things that we're doing around that. But we're also going to be talking about document interrogation here shortly. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So there's one other thing. Well, there's a couple of things we talked about, but there's one other thing I found interesting that you had brought up, and that's other tips and tricks or hacks, almost at a browser level.
Sure. So there's probably a lot of people on this call who remember Needles and who remember TrialWorks, what other program you're in. You got it on your computer by installing it off floppies or CDs or whatever the medium was at the time, and it lived on your desktop. And one of the advantages of those desktop programs were that you have all these keyboard shortcuts, and like the web is amazing as an equalizer for everybody, but it probably wasn't designed for productivity. Like it's hard to have different windows and stuff. So after we switched to Neos, which is a web-based browser, I noticed everybody was using it in the same way. They had one window open, and every time they needed to go to something else, you'd click on documents, or you'd click back on the clients tab, or click to something like that. And figured out pretty quickly, there's some shortcuts to make this a much more easy, robust experience. Like try different browsers. Like there are different browsers have different capabilities. Microsoft Edge has this ability to show 2 screens, 2 separate browser windows in one window. And like if you have the documents menu and you click in the other window, if you have it set up right, the document pops up. It's not a new window that you have to go back and forth with. It's like a real-time thing that makes it easier. When I'm working on a case in depth, there might be several Neo screens that you would like to have in front of you all the time, like the main screen with the synopsis, the document screen, maybe the note screen. So I open those up in different windows and spread them around so you can work in like 3 or 4 different places within Neos at the same time. And I have different tabs set up. Like I'll just open the cases in a different tab that I know I'm going to be using, during the day sometimes. So I can just get back and forth to them really quickly. And it eliminates a lot of those shortcuts and everything. And the different browser windows have some really cool features. Like Microsoft Edge has this collections feature that lets you put together a bunch of things, bunch of web pages. So I'll take a case, I'll collect about 5 Neos views that are useful for that case. I'll add them to that collection. Then when I hit that, it opens them all up at one time. So I have the whole case available to me. And, I got a couple monitors here. So literally I do that and the whole case opens up to me and I have a thing to look at it. And there's not all this clicking back and forth. So, you don't have to be completely linear in how you use, your web browser. And it's a small thing, but like web browsers, how you use them, the shortcuts and everything, like, again, it cuts steps out of your day. And makes it way faster.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And actually, one of our most requested features is a dark mode on Neos. It's something that we don't have short-term plans to do, but it's something that we will actually redirect people back to the browser add-ins because there's a ton of them out there. And so you can effectively get a dark mode right there in Neos just from an add-in. And they have them on Edge and Chrome too. So there's lots of great stuff. I love that we're talking about.
If you're working in dark mode, then you're working too hard anyway. You shouldn't be working past when there's no light in your office.
I have a feeling we're talking to a group that does that a lot, though.
I know.
That's fantastic. All right, so we're going to start jumping into AI, but I do have a couple more questions. Go ahead, Marissa.
Sorry, don't be an interrupt. I did want to, before you jump into that, Matt, you are a Neos beta AI tester, right?
Yep.
So you've been testing it for, several months now, and you've seen the evolution of NeosAI, giving you a little sneak peek about what's coming up. Right now that we have live in Neos, what are you most excited about the NeosAI?
That's now or that's coming up?
No, that's now. I mean, we have tons of stuff to be excited about too.
So I'm excited. The document summaries are helpful.
Great.
So like if you analyze a lot of documents that come in, it's they're not intended. I like the fact they're not intended to be a great big long summary. Okay. But it gives you extra data about what's in something. So I've enjoyed using those. I like the ability, to build out like the demand letter function in document generation. And I think it takes a little bit of kind of homework to understand the concept of how that's working and where it's drawing information from. But it's pretty powerful. And it's like a lot of form-based stuff. I think most people who switch to Neos, one of the most time-consuming parts of a transition to a new system is getting those forms set up. So you got to put some time in on the front end. It's an investment of time. But once you have it, it pays off because it creates a common product across everybody who's working that has the minimum effective dose of what you need. It gives us all a starting point. And that means we're not married to forms anymore, like lawyers used to be. So I really like that feature. I use it. And, I've been impressed with what it does. I think eventually there are companies out there that do AI demands in a kind of different way, a very robust way. And I think what a lot of these features do, it's kind of like the PDF editor too. To some extent, they keep you from having to make the full plunge into the expense of those other products. Like, there's so many, like with the Neos AI demand generation thing, it's for something this new, because it hasn't been around for that long, I'm surprised at how good the output is. And it just gives you a place to start. So I've enjoyed that. We have not made the, there's an AI feature that lets you extract invoice data to create a number. I have experimented with that, but not implemented it because of anything to change. Our accounting type stuff is the last to change. I get a lot of blowback if I try to. I'm not an accountant, the only thing I learned in accounting for lawyers was hire an accountant. So, those are some of the last processes to change, the financial processes. But I see the potential of it is we spend so much time charting medical expenses in cases. It's just a huge thing. So, taking another step towards that being automatic is just one more thing people don't have to do.
That's awesome. So to kind of further this questioning before we jump into like some of the cool new stuff that's coming out, how do you view really AI and its impact to the industry? Let's talk over the next 6 months, 1 year. How do you see that really affecting your firm, or how have you benefited from it?
So have you guys ever heard the term black swan, like a black swan event?
Yep.
So, swans are normally white, but every once in a while there will be this weird genetic mutation or something, and then out of nowhere, unexpectedly, you'll see a black swan with all the white swans. So this kind of rare, unforeseen, unexpected event. And AI for lawyers, for me in particular, has been that. So to me, all of this technology, while it interests me a little bit intellectually, I think there's all things we'd rather do than work on technology. I have hobbies, things I like to do, but AI has allowed me to be more efficient, way more efficient. It's not even I'm not talking incremental efficiency. I'm talking like life-changing efficiency. It has allowed me to produce the best written work product I have ever produced in my career in about 1/10 of the time, which is huge. I mean, and it has allowed me, to basically convince people that I am far more hardworking and efficient than I actually am, because the speed with which we can get things done with these workflows just blows people away. And, in cases, and I would imagine that most of the people on this seminar, most of them are plaintiffs' attorneys, I would think. Probably not everybody, but, I bet a lot of them are. And to give you an example, we got a workflow through AI that when somebody sends me a set of interrogatories, I can answer it in an hour with 10 minutes of my time. So somebody might send me discovery and I might answer that discovery the same day. And when you do something like that, it's disruptive to people. It gets them thinking like, oh my gosh, what's this guy doing? How is it humanly? It makes you look squared away, even if you have papers all over your desk, the ability to respond quickly like that with a quality work product, it changes people's perceptions of you and of your staff. In addition to just saving a ton of time. So AI, and there's a lot of ways we use it. We use it with voice. We use it with transcription. We use it in Neos. We use it in ChatGPT. It's almost hard to articulate how I am not using it, as opposed to how I am using it. And it's allowed me to hire people to work for me who do not have a ton of paralegal or legal training. So it's been a total game changer for me. it's generated probably an extra 2 hours a day for me personally to do things with. And I'm producing what I feel is like some of the best written work product and ideas that I've ever had the whole time I've been practicing law.
That's amazing. Can I just ask a question to clarify? You said that it helped you with people who may not have had as much legal experience, specifically your paralegals or your legal assistants. How has AI enabled you to make them successful without having that experience? Or,
Well, there's an example that came up this morning. My number one hiring criteria, or maybe not number one, but at the top in the future, will be how comfortable are people with technology, and are they capable of adapting to new things? Okay. So there's a young man we hired in our office not long ago. He has no legal training whatsoever. And normally to train somebody on, say, how to respond to particular letters or things like that, it's not easy to learn how to answer discovery. Using AI tools, like when he first came, I had a conversation with ChatGPT and basically said, like, I'm onboarding a new employee. I need a comprehensive self-training program for him to learn the highlights of what he needs to do this job. And I gave it a lot of other input and so on and so forth, just had a conversation with it. And about 30 minutes later, I have a comprehensive self-training program for that employee to use ChatGPT to ask questions, interact with it. And it did a schedule. And every day he would spend an hour every day on this program, exploring different topics, getting answers to questions about things like subrogation, like measure of damages. What is discovery? What are the different forms of discovery? What are some of the rules around discovery? What are the ethical obligations? So I didn't have to, it's books and books and books full of stuff. It would be days of classroom instruction. I had to spend 30 minutes on that, and it gave him the tools to learn all those things on his own. So, he didn't have to have gone to paralegal training, because he can understand what he needs. He's a bright person, and he can understand what he needs to understand if he's inquisitive and he knows how to ask questions. Same way with medical terms or legal terms, you can find those answers. You don't have to have a library anymore to find those answers. So I'm able now to give people opportunities, and it's not really a requirement for, and this doesn't apply to everybody in the office, but it does apply to a lot of new people who help me with cases. They simply don't need a lot of legal experience to be very helpful to me if they're open-minded about technology.
That is fantastic. And I know that one of the challenges that probably any law firm faces is finding talent that is willing to really dig into new innovations, new tools, because you have to adopt these things in order to stay competitive. Because if you don't, then the firm down the street is just going to. And if you're spending all of your time trying to convince your staff to adopt these things, it's very hard.
I read a really interesting article about the kinds of people who will be in demand with the advent of AI. And I don't know if this will happen or not, but I think currently, whether you're law or whatever your field is, you need people to be technically proficient, full of knowledge about the field. And in the past, that's been the hiring format. With the advent of AI, liberal arts majors will come back into vogue, because the operative skill set is, I need to ask questions, and I need to think about, this tool. I don't need to know the answer. I need to know how to go find the answer, which is a completely different set of tools and skill sets than it is studying to know the answer in the first place. And, you know, AI is built on a language module, you know, so it's all about language. The underpinnings of everything is language and how we use language. So I'm finding that people who are good with language are doing a really good job with adapting. You know, English majors, you know, liberal arts majors now, I think, actually have some competitive advantages in some fields as opposed to like coders. You know, like people can code with AI now. You don't have to be a computer science major, but you have to know how to use the tool. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, to see what kinds of people succeed with this in the future.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic points. It is really interesting. And so I'm going to kind of transition that into kind of how we developed NeosAI, and it's part of our Platinum package, right? So everything we're talking about today is really, you know, a cost-effective way to get NeosAI, to get automations, to bring efficiencies to your firm. So our Platinum package actually includes all of our PDF editing and all the document generation and intakes with automations and texting and a host of other things, but it also includes NeosAI, because what we didn't want to do is go out and do this, you know, they call it cost per drip or, you know, pay per consumption. We wanted to include it all, so you knew exactly what you were going to be spending on. You can use it wherever. And our whole approach is to bring it into the workflows that matter within Neos, right? To do that. So when you have someone that's there that's new or even more established, we don't want to take you away from the workflows that you're already doing. We're bringing the generative AI into the platform where you're already going to use it. So I'm going to show some things real quick, but I did want to also briefly highlight on some of the things that we already have in Neos, which is document summaries. I know that's a big one. I know that was one of the questions, was where we see a lot of the ROI on that. You know, at least from our firms, we hear a lot of that around summaries. We've gone through a lot of what we call a design partner program. And Matt, we were fortunate to have him involved. We actually listen to our customer base, get their feedback, and really take it to heart, bring it into product. We do a whole bunch of beta testing and a number of other things. So that was a big one. We have document extraction. So not just generating demand letters, but a number of other types of documents that actually use Neos data to actually output the document itself. We also have some called dynamic forms, which is fairly complex, but it's a way to rapidly generate forms when it's needed within the actual Neos application itself. And then we also have another component that Matt was talking about, document extractions. And I'm actually going to lead off and show that. But we also have some more things coming up, which is more in-depth summaries. As we talked about, we can rapidly change these models as new models get better and come out. So we've already got a big release that's coming out that provides more details around that. We're adding those dynamic forms to the case layout, and we're also bringing in a NeosAI tag manager right now, because we don't want to bring, you know, what they call or I guess what we've seen is where you start pulling in data that's not actually there. It's called hallucinations with AI. We actually control that so we don't get any of that. But what we're doing within those certain guardrails within each case or each data element or AI element that you're interacting with is rolling out a way to manage your own AI tags, to add prompts and to call them quickly, either through a document or through other means. So those are all really cool. But probably the biggest one, and I really excited about, is NeosAI chat for documents. And I'm actually going to show that right here. But the first thing that I'm going to lead off with after I share my screen is kind of the whole extraction piece, so we can see why that's relevant and important. So give me just a second. So I'll go through this pretty quick because we don't have a ton of time. Marissa, can you gut check me here? Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're great.
Okay, awesome. So we have AI kind of littered up throughout Neos right now. What you're really looking, so I'm going to keep, we're not going to go through it all today, but I'm going to keep it isolated to this. And this is really just our documents. And we're going to predominantly stay here for this demo. But one of the things that we do when we talk about summary and extraction and bringing this all into our existing workflows is being able to really call up AI on the fly. All I did there was drag and drop a document like I would any other document. I'm going to give it a type. because we're basically telling AI what to do with it because it needs to know what type of document it is. And then I'm just going to click on this little button that says Analyze with NeosAI. I'm going to hit Save. So not only am I uploading the document, but a couple of other things are happening. I'm going to do some AI document analysis, and then I'm going to show you how we can actually do some extraction on this. So the extraction is interesting because we're going to be pulling out what's called key value pairs. So if I come and look at this document, first thing that you're going to notice is this summary. The summary was generated, it's stored within Neos, it's searchable, I can do all of the things here. It's going to tell me the details of services. And again, this is invoice, but we can do this with other types. We can do this with medical records and a number of other things. But so I'm going to get information that's automatically put out there. I don't have to go in and type it in. I don't have to have my staff go do this. It just automatically does it when I click that little button. I also have fields. So if we go into file, let's go open this. You're going to see a little bit. Oh, that was the wrong document. Apologies. It should be this one. You're going to see associated fields to this document. So right here, I get a number of kind of predefined catchers. So if there was this information in the invoice, it would be extracted because we're looking for those key value pairs. Now, what's cool here is I've actually pulled out line items that you would see in this document. I'm going to open it up so you can actually see the invoice itself. I'll scroll in, maybe not that much, but you can see these individual line items. So if I had payments or adjustments, it would show up here. But if I go back to this, you can see all of these items right here, so I can review it. What's great here is if I want to give it some additional information or store it, I can just come in here quickly and edit this, and we can call this 250, because let's say that OCR that Matt was talking about, there was a smudge on the paper and it was scanned, or for whatever reason there's an issue there. I can just come in here and quickly change it. But because it's OCR, all that stuff just automatically happens. I can make the change, check it. We always recommend checking anytime AI is involved. Again, it reduces a ton of time with that. So now I've got these changes. That document's all done. What's cool is, and this was what Matt was talking about this a little bit before, is when I want to actually track my medical expenses from this document, I've got these fields. I just have a different view of it. So I've expanded out, but I've got this little button that says create value records. I could now, this one, and you have to forgive me, I'm in our dev environment. So of course this will happen because that's the nature of the beast. But when I do this, all this just gets generated and pushed over into our value items. So we're extracting that information and doing something with it. So the other cool thing, and that exists today within Neo. So I have that for a number of different types, and all of these are specific documents where I could get additional details, and I have summaries that were created of it. So in this case, full fat chronology report, let me make this a little bit bigger for everybody to see. All of this information was extracted, pulled out, and so we have details of all the major events along with the pages, so you can go directly to where those pages are if you're looking for additional details. So the reason why I'm showing this first is because not only can you upload as a part of your workflow, but you can generate a summary and extract the information. But what we're doing in this next release is actually bringing out this chat with NeosAI. So what this is going to do, and I'm going to start a new chat. Let's continue. So what I'm going to do is select a document for my case, and I could drag and drop if I wanted, but in this case, I am just going to select for my case, and we'll grab this deposition. So I'm pulling this deposition, and again, it's pulling out summary, details, and overview, and key information. So what I'm going to do here, and I'm instead of just typing this, say, I'm going to drop in some questions. So so I've read through here, and part of it is there was a motion denying a stay, and part of that was around 2 pending trials that were currently in play. And so I want to get some more information. I'm literally going to say, what are the 2 pending trials? Now, what's nice here is that we're ring fencing around the specific document that is here. We can do groups of documents, so you can ask a bunch of questions, get answers based off of basically any question you want to ask it within the legal space. We intentionally have not allowed going outside the legal space because, again, we are trying to avoid hallucinations on this. We want to make sure that this is legal specific. So it reduces the risk to you of somebody with your staff going in, doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So again, that's why we ring fence this a little bit. So in this case, I wanted a timeline. Say, what is the timeline presented in the document? It's going to give me the key dates that are relevant to this document. I can come in and quickly say, what is the ruling? And again, no, I don't need to do this for all of them, but you can see that I can just now, with a document that I've either uploaded or want to interrogate, I can just drop it in here, start asking questions, and it's going to give me information related to all the things that are part of that document. To this point, I can come in and I'm going to say, on what grounds did the court deny both motions? And it's going to leverage, again, all the information within that document to give me a synopsis of why the court came to those conclusions. Right? So the other really nice thing here is if I want to save these specific pieces, I can go ahead and copy this to my clipboard and I can go over to notes and I can save this as a note if I just want specific pieces here. But if I want this whole chat thread because I want a full record, I want to know exactly what was asked before I get back there, or if I want to require my staff for anything that they use for me to have a record of these things to sit in notes so I can review exactly how we got there, all I've got to do is copy this to my notes section. I've now copied this to notes, saved over there, and I can go back and reference it. So I'm going to try this with another one. In this case, we're going to use full fact chronology. So we're going to use a in-depth medical report. And what you're going to see here, again, full overview. We won't go through all the details, but details along with general timeline, the pages that each of these are associated to, etc. So we have this, and now I can start asking questions. So in this, I'm going to say, you know what, this is full fact chronology, but you know what, I just want key dates. I'll just give you the key dates here. And you're going to see that I'm going to generate key dates. So you can see on July 7th, the person hit his head or chin. And then all of the subsequent key dates as part of that. If I want to say, what are some pre-existing medical conditions? Because obviously I want to know where there's risk. It's going to give me a breakdown of everything that's found in the report that was listed as potentially pre-existing or that could have been pre-existing. So as you can see, I can come in here, I can start really going deep on these documents if I choose. If I just want high level, I can. And then finally, let's say I try to break out from this specific document. I want to ask something like, is the sky blue? You're going to see that our assistant comes back and says, that's not pertaining to this document. This is not specific to legal. We're not going to let you do that. We're going to put those guardrails in. So this is one of the big things that are coming out that we're really excited about, along with all of the other pieces. Just wanted to give a quick preview and, again, shout out to Matt and a number of our other beta testers and customers who provided a ton of feedback to help us get to this place. This is all coming out in December as part of our NeosAI Platinum package. So I do have to ask, Matt, based off of what you've seen here, how do you see this benefiting you in the future? Do you think that this adds more value to your firm? What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I'm sort of flabbergasted, to be honest, because let me tell you how we do things now and what this will change. In every case currently, we have a chat GPT thread, okay? And there's one for every case, and we feed documents into it in order to be able to extract information from the documents, to summarize things, and to condense them. That process is incredibly helpful, but it is tedious to do. You got to take documents, download them, put them back up and in, then work on them. And I got to train people on how to use ChatGPT. I got to buy separate ChatGPT licenses for people in order to get this sort of content. This will eliminate all of that. This lets me get this information right from Neos where the documents are. I don't have to download them. There's no security concerns because, people, I lecture on AI a lot to other lawyers, and the big thing that comes up again and again and again is security and privacy. I'm not comfortable putting my documents on a case into a ChatGPT thread. So this answers that. And if you think for a second, like in every file that we work on, everybody deals with this. You got to summarize medical records. You have to know what's in them. And you just struggle with that process over the years. Like you have full-time people who do it. You send it out to be done. You know, you do it yourself. We're almost to the point with this where you've eliminated the need to pay any service to summarize medical records. Now, you know, there are going to be things you want to do, but you could select all your medical records at one time and ask the kinds of questions that you need to write a demand or understand the case without ever having to look at the record yourself or pay somebody to look at it or send it out or to download it. So, you know, to know what's in depositions, to know what's in pleadings. Like I look at this and I'm thinking of like something I had to do this morning. Okay. I had a motion to compel that I had to prepare. And, you know, when you do those, you got to list all the communications and the dates and everything. That means you got to get out every email, every letter, put together a timeline. Like it's time consuming. You could just select all those things and this is going to do that timeline for you. So to me, and this has been what I've always wanted AI in case management to be. I want it to be a window that's easy to understand and train people on, where they can ask questions of things that are already there without hallucinations or error rates. And from what you're showing me here, this will like dramatically change my workflow on a day-to-day basis. So, so when's it coming out? That's what I want to know. You know, that's my main question is, you know, when do we get to use it? Because this to me is the ultimate synthesis of AI for lawyers in a way that there are no technical barriers to entry. And this can save me money. I use case text right now to do a lot of this. It's a separate program. It's expensive. It's cool, but it's expensive. And this will eliminate the need for 80% of what I have to pay separate AI platforms to do.
That's fantastic. We'd love to hear that. This is our first time showing it broadly, but this comes out in less than a month. December 3rd is our target release, always subject to change, just a little bit on either side, but that's our date. So we're excited to be delivering that.
Man.
Yeah, and
Fantastic.
Matt and McKay, you both hit on great points about the security. So when you're using an external system, then you are subject to whatever security protocols they have in place. So whatever ChatGPT has in place, or any external platform. But here, everything is secure. It never leaves Neos. We don't train anything. We don't train our model on any of the queries that you put through. We don't retain or what powers our AI. It doesn't retain any data whatsoever. And your data is secure, it will never leave Neos.
That's a great point. Yes, we do have a net zero retention policy. If you're curious what that is, go look it up. But yeah, that's a very important thing to us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that's
right.
really...
I look at something like this, and first of all, I'm amazed that this is technically possible. I didn't believe that this would be possible in this kind of format, because the challenge has always been, why can't you take the AI to your SharePoint directory rather than unpack? It's like packing for a trip. You got to put stuff in your suitcase and take it to where you want to go every single time you use it. So this is more like traveling in an RV. You have all your stuff with you all the time. You never have to pack and unpack. You might be in a different place, but your stuff's always there all the time. And I'm excited to see where this goes too, because I can already see sort of your all's trajectory. And, you know, I think I have a little idea of in a year what we might be looking at with this too. And, you know, it just makes the future really exciting. You know, this is gonna, I mean, I'll start leaving work earlier if all this stuff works the way it looks like it's gonna work.
I love to hear that. That's our goal. It's all about efficiency. Chris had, glad to hear you're on, Chris. Has a question about extracting information from notes and case docs to create a timeline in a single process. The next thing that we're doing, and this is not part of this next release, but subsequent releases, we're going to be doing note summaries. So you'll be able to get a summary on all of your notes, and then we can tie those two things together, the notes and the documents piece, to get a timeline of all things together. So I know you've had some feedback as well, Chris, along the way. So we're excited to be talking about that as well. Very cool stuff. All right, that's what we have. Again, you know, when we talk about getting feedback, it's something we call integrated voice of the customer. It's something that's very important to us as an entire organization at Assembly, and especially the product management team. And for those who don't know, product management essentially talks with all of our customers, gets all those requirements, puts them in, hands them off to the development team, and then gets them back out to all of you. So we love working with our customer base. We love doing these things because it's not only fulfilling and fun, but at the same time, we also get to show really some of the cool stuff that we're working on, that we're releasing. So thank you all for joining. I don't know, Marissa or Matt, if you had any parting words.
Jennifer just had one last question. Is there a way to test the product before committing to subscribing? Is it a subscription or program to be purchased outright? So you can actually try NeosAI Platinum for free, no commitment, if you are a Neos customer for 45 days. And if you are just a prospective customer, you can actually try it once you start a Neos contract. So I have your contact information, Jennifer. I'll follow up with you after this webinar and let you know if you know, this might be the right choice for you. And it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, McKay. Thank you, everybody who took the time to watch this webinar. We will be sending out a recording of this in an email, probably on Friday. And again, if you want to test out any of these, you know, AI Platinum features, we do offer that 45-day trial. So please, you can reach out to Alessandra or your customer success account manager, or just sign up for a demo. And all of that information will be in the thank you email. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.